Welcome to Hip Hop Movie Club, where three old heads put their old heads together to vibe on some of the most memorable or forgettable hip hop themed movies of all time. And here's HHMC with your HHMCs, Boogie, JB, and Dino Wright. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 3, Above the Rim. Written by Barry Michael Cooper and Jeff Pollack, directed by Jeff Pollack, and produced by Pollack and Benny Medina. Released in 1994 and featuring Duane Martin, Leon, Tupac Shakur, Bernie Mac, Marlon Wayans, and Tonya Pinkins. We'll answer the question, how high above the rim does this film actually reach?
Above the Rim is a coming-of-age story for Kyle, a star high school point guard who deals with some tricky family dynamics as he's trying to land a scholarship from Georgetown University. Along the way, he's tempted by the local kingpin, Birdie, and his thuggish lifestyle. The movie culminates in a dramatic basketball tournament. Boogie, what are your first takes on Above the Rim?
All right, when this movie originally came out, it was a big thing. I loved it back then. I think it still holds its weight right now, but I haven't seen it in years. But I'm such a fan of basketball, and I just love to watch the sport. So I'll watch pretty much anything basketball related. But I do love the story and the dynamics between the main characters. I mean, Kyle definitely has what it takes to make it to the next level. But as usual, in these type of environments, the streets are calling out for him. We come across the character Shep. He had what it took, but the traumatic death of his teammate changed the course of his life, and he's trying to, I guess, go on a course of redemption. But he's kind of shying away from it because he doesn't want anything to do with it, because he doesn't want to feel responsible for anyone else's failure or any other more tragedies in his life. And then we look at the character Birdie, who's Shep's younger brother, and he's so entangled in the street life that, you know, he doesn't see any kind of way out. I think all three of these scenarios are believable and relatable for anyone that's coming out of the inner city, any inner city. So I think that it's very believable that, you know, you can come across these type of scenarios. But I do think that there's something about the story that I really did like about it, though. And I like the fact that through it all, Shep was able to come to terms with what happened to his friend and his teammate when he was younger. And he was able to pay it forward and do the right thing and kind of give Kyle that guidance. And you see, you know, at the end of the movie that he actually does make it on, but he did provide that redemption that he needed.
Yeah, I liked a lot of the character development. You got to really know their backstory. You have Kyle, who's one of the main protagonists, really. This, as I said, the star point guard, but he's kind of selfish on the court. He's hot-tempered. You can get inside his head. He gets riled up, and then he has this Dane looking out for his mother, who starts dating, you know, Tom Shepard, and he realizes Shepard is, you know, brothers with Birdie, who has a checkered past. You know, as you said, Tom Shepard has some skeletons in his closet as well. Now, to get into Tom Shepard, you know, he's haunted by his past. He was a former high school star, but he was implicated in the death of his teammate and friend Nutso. So most of the movie, he's brooding, you know, and it's nice to see that he gets to somewhat exercise his past because he was a star. He had that major setback with the death of his friend. And then you see Birdie, Tupac, was just an amazing job acting. I really disliked the person he stood for in the movie because he was such a thug living in the underworld, brutalizing the guy Flip, played by Bernie Mac. I'm living on the street just for no reason other than to make himself feel superior. He tries to monopolize the basketball tournament, trying to almost bribe Kyle to play for him illegally. So yeah, I liked the characters. There was a lot to it, and you see how it all kind of crystallizes at the end. What are your takes, Dinah? Right?
Well, I think the best part of this movie was Tupac for sure. Yeah, one of the most talented rappers of all time, also happens to be a great actor. It's like not fair. He's quite an entertainer. He was just so charming and ruthless. To have this combination in one person in one role, it was just great. I think it really carried the movie, even though there were some parts I didn't really like from a film standpoint. But the situation that he places Kyle in was really it's hard to decide what to do. Like what side do you pick? And you can really feel that in the characters. And Kyle's at a crossroads, and he's trying to juggle getting the scholarship and looking out for his mother, whether or not she actually wants him to look out for her. All that put together really made for the real heart of the movie for me.
Right.
Was Bernie Mac's fun, even though he was like he was a tragic figure. He just makes me laugh every time I see him.
Yeah.
I miss Bernie Mac a lot.
Yeah.
America. You don't understand.
And Kyle's friend, Boog, played by Marlon Wayans, always good for some comic relief, even though he also had a checkered past. He had come out of prison, but he was just, his dialogue was funny. He wasn't the greatest player, but he thought he was great.
Yeah, Boog was like, he was weak-minded. He was always trying to fit in. I mean, he seemed like he was a genuine friend of Kyle. Like he really cared about Kyle. You could tell because, everywhere Kyle went, he wanted to be there. He wanted to help out. He wanted to be around Kyle whenever he could be. But he was so weak in that he was trying to emulate the lifestyle that Birdie had. And he didn't have that charisma that Birdie had, or that, that toughness or anything like that. He was a tragic figure, but hopefully, we don't get to see what happened to him other than he got rid of Birdie, but we don't see what goes on with him past that point. We would want to root for somebody like that because you could see the good in him, but it was just so intertwined, and he couldn't find a way to get out. He had to fix himself in order to get out of it.
You make a good point about kind of being weak-minded, and like you said, Donna, right? How charming but evil Birdie was. And now you can see how people can stay in abusive relationships, whether it's a loving relationship or whatever, between two partners or just friends. It's like, why do people continue to hang out with people that are no good for them? It's because they have this special kind of charm. You look up to them because they're slick. They get their way. You can see they're successful in their own way, where Birdie is making money. He's respected by a lot of people, and that's what people aspire to be. But it's all obviously going at it the wrong way, right. Being abusive and doing illegal things, dealing drugs, and being violent and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, you even look at the character Mo. I'm trying to remember what name he went by in this movie, but I know him as Wood Harris. But
Motaw, I think it was.
Yeah, Motaw. Yeah, Motaw. Yeah. That was Birdie's main foot soldier, and he was much bigger in stature than Birdie. Could easily probably get rid of him with easily with no problem. But follow Birdie's every word, every beck and call, whatever Birdie wanted. Mo was there to Motaw was there to do it, and that's that same thing. It goes back to that charisma that Birdie had. I mean, the influence that he had on people that like Motaw, that was much larger than him, that followed him and did whatever he wanted, even down to the end after the tournament was over.
Yeah, I think Duane Martin did a really nice job as Kyle. He was really believable, like you said, as the cocky point guard. He was selfish, but he thought that was the only way he needed to do that to get his scholarship. He needed to kind of put on a show, and he got disobeyed his coach. And I felt bad for the coach. The coach was kind of looking out for his best interests. He was saying that the recruiter there wants to see you be a good teammate. And I felt for the coach a little bit when Kyle talked back to him in his office. He showed up late. He said, you got to be there early. Showed up late. And then he was torn between playing in that tournament for Birdie or play for the coach. And then he just lost his cool again and said, that's it. By the way, I'm not playing for you in the tournament.
Right.
But as we know, that eventually changes, which was good to see.
Yeah, that coach definitely had his best interest at heart, and it was tough to watch him talk back to that coach like that. You know, anybody that's played in a team sport with a tough coach, it's tough to watch that. My coach, when I ran track, my coach would not tolerate that at all. He might have yoked one of us up or something. But yeah, he gave that coach a hard time. Even like you could tell the conversation that, the coach was having with Shep when he was trying to convince him to come on his coaching staff. And he's like, I can't relate to these kids anymore. Or I can't reach them the way someone like you probably could. He can see that it was a stressful situation and that it was getting tougher for him.
Yeah, it seemed like the coach was somewhat of an institution at this high school. He had Coach Shepard and I guess Flip as well, and he had a lot of success. But right, these younger kids were a little bit more disrespectful, and he couldn't relate quite as well. So, but again, he's looking out. He's trying to even take care of Shepard, who played well for him, and he wanted to hook him up with a job. Shepard had just come into town just to bury his mother. He was only going to be there for a short stint. Meanwhile, Coach was trying to angle for him to succeed him as the high school basketball coach. Shepard really didn't want anything to really do with it. But I think as he kind of sees Kyle in need of a father figure and someone to get him on the right track, and also, him falling for Kyle's mother, the time was right for him to kind of step in.
Right. Absolutely. So let's talk about Kyle's mother for a second, just to, just touch on and give her flowers. But Malika Watson, Kyle's mother, was played by Tonya Pinkins, who actually was one of the co-stars of our very first episode, the movie that we showcased in our very first episode, Beach Street. She was Angela. She was the character of Angela in that movie. So, it's good to see kind of come, full circle from being a youngster in our first movie to actually playing a mother in one of our later episodes. So that's a good shout out to her on that.
Yeah, it's nice to see when we see repeat actors and actresses and how they evolve. And now she's the mother. Hey, that's pretty cool.
Only 3 years older than Duane Martin, though.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, man, she's too young to have a kid. Oh, because she she was only 3 years older.
Great acting by Pinkins.
Yeah, she's got some chops.
Some of the other characters, are widely known for a lot of other roles as well. I mean, Duane Martin, well, he was married to Tisha Campbell for many years.
Yeah.
I think they got divorced a few years back, and he had a very short stint with the New York Knicks, from what I read. And Leon, who's one of the sexiest men alive.
Yeah.
He was a central figure in Madonna's Like a Prayer video.
Yeah.
If you recall.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Starting in 5 Heartbeats as well.
5 Heartbeats, yeah.
He was in Waiting to Exhale.
Exhale.
Temptations miniseries.
Played David Ruffin, yep.
Yep.
And David Bailey, who played the high school coach we were talking about, played Dr. Russ Matthews on Another World for many years. He was a soap opera star.
Longtime soap opera actor.
Yeah.
Nice. I caught a familiar face in this movie as well. Henry Simmons, he played one of the big men. He was actually the guy that got into it with Kyle in the beginning after the first game where Kyle blew that jumper. But he was one of the guys from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He played Mac from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I was like, oh, okay, that's Mac. It's young Mac. I don't even think I ever noticed that was him in the movie until I went to rewatch it this time, and I didn't even put the connection to it. I'm like, oh wow, he played one of my favorite characters of that show. Had a geek moment for a second.
And we should mention that Kyle's character was loosely based on Allen Iverson, who wound up playing at Georgetown like Kyle did, and had a similar kind of brushed with the law kind of backstory. So that was good fodder for this movie.
Yeah. There was another little cameo, I would say, as well that I picked up on. The guy that played Montrose was the rival high school, was Eric Neese. Remember he had a moment in the early 90s that was it on Real World? He was from like Ocean, New Jersey. He was an MTV personality for a little while.
Yes,
And he was in a
yes.
few things. Yeah, he was a local kid for some of us here. I remember that.
And I read that Alan Payne, who played Euripides or Dead Mike from CB4, was supposed to play Kyle, but for some reason did not take the lead role.
Huh.
Another tie to another hip hop movie for us.
Yeah.
That might have been a scheduling conflict because I know
Right.
he was doing a few movies around that time. Wow. Interesting. I didn't know that one.
Yeah, so it's a tragic story, as you could tell from the end. But what I liked, which was cracking up, and this is like legendary, was Tom Shepard schooling the fools in his like long johns and corduroys.
Yes.
So what happens in the tournament? Obviously, it comes down to Kyle's team with his like high school classmates because he backed out of playing with Birdie's team he had committed to because of the way that they treated Boog. They totally dissed him and kicked him out of their meeting, and he didn't want to be affiliated with them. So he last minute, he's like, Coach, can I join your team? So he's playing with his team against the Birdmen, Birdie's thuggish team. And injuries surmount because Birdmen are just playing thuggish basketball, worse than the bad boys of the Detroit Pistons. just blatantly like elbowing, punching, which was something I was like, how could these officials like allow that all to happen? That was one of the things I kind of disliked their question. I was like, I know it's a street game and you can be somewhat physical, but they're literally like flipping these guys in the air and like punching them in the mouth.
Bully ball.
Yeah. But smartly, the high school coach had registered Tom Shepard, on his roster. He told him that early on.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So when they were down there. Yeah. So when the backup point guard, Bobby, was injured, they were down to 4 guys. Kyle actually comes back from an injury, but then they were like, what's going to happen now? You're going to forfeit. And then Tom Shepard's like, put me in. And meanwhile, he's got his corduroys and long johns on, and he looks like a longshore fisherman. And he takes him to school, and he's draining 3 after 3 after 3 and dunking. And I think that's like a legendary scene where people always joke about that to this day, that he beat them with that type of attire on.
This was my biggest problem with the movie. One of my big problems with the movie is that somehow they were very physical with Kyle and Bobby and the other players. But when Shep goes on the court, who's like, I don't know, 20 years older than everyone or significantly older than everyone, suddenly they can't foul him like they fouled everyone else. I was like, what happened to defense? It just seems so contrived that he was getting so open and he was losing all these players. It didn't seem that like realistic. I mean, Shep is a great player, but now you decide not to play defense. It seemed fixed, but now it made it worse.
His skill was next level.
It really was, because I don't know, Steph Curry out here just getting any shot he wanted.
I mean, they tore him up for a little while, but then he just started breaking out.
They did. No, and they bloodied him and somehow, like, did they stop after that? Like, you think that they would just keep doing that, but they didn't. And him coming in at the end of the game, people have complained about how contrived it is. And I'm one of those people, like, oh, of course he's going to come in and save the day.
It was a little predictable, but he actually, when Tom Shepard came in, he wasn't backing down at all. He provided a little bit of toughness to that team because, you see, he was pushing back.
Yeah, he was pushing back.
He was shoving.
Yeah.
He actually, I think he even hit one of the guys in the groin too.
Yeah,
so it's like, oh, wait a second.
He did.
We're getting bullied back. Sometimes you have to fight back for yourself, and all right, you're gonna play by these rules. I'm gonna play by these rules too.
It's a man's game.
So, yeah. The coach ends up stealing Birdie's line, saying, "Oh, it's a man's game, right?" And good non-call, ref.
Good non-call, ref.
Yeah. So he turned the words on him. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, Donna. Right? It was contrived, not, but maybe it was that respect. It was kind of like Kevin Durant's coming on the court or something. Hold up.
Yeah. I mean, he was,
and he's being physical too.
Yeah.
You get punched in the mouth. You punch a guy right back in the mouth. Yeah. I love the film, just like Boogie. I love all sports. I love basketball as well. So I was just mesmerized by the highlights. Some of the highlights that they were showing was kind of like an and one reel.
Yeah,
which is awesome. Even the way that
and one mixtape out here.
Yeah, and one mixtape. Even the way that Kyle kind of punks Flip and throws the ball against them and stuff like that. I mean, it's fun to watch. But there were some things I also kind of disliked. Again, the officiating was kind of ridiculous. You can't be that blatant with stuff. And it was odd to me that when, Shepard goes back at one point. I mean, Kyle goes looking for Flip at one point, and Shepard tells him, "Oh, he's dead." And then the next minute, he's like, "Let's play one-on-one." It was just kind of a weird sequence where he's like, "Oh, by the way, we never played one-on-one. Let's play one-on-one." He was looking for him. He was concerned about him. He was like, "Oh, yeah, he's gone. He's dead. Let's play one-on-one right now." I was like, that was kind of weird to me.
Yeah, it gave him a little unnecessary tough love at the weirdest time.
Yeah.
Shep's character, it seemed kind of erratic, like real quiet, but then he'd say something, and I don't know. I felt like I couldn't quite get a handle on what Shep was doing. But my big complaint was the very beginning. Why was there a hoop next to the second story window? Like, whose idea was that? That didn't seem like a great idea. And the whole, I was trying to think of the physics of jumping and touching the top of the backboard or high as backboard as you can jump. And when you do that, you're the physics of it, like you come straight down. You don't like jump to go forward more. If you're trying to reach high as you can, your momentum would bring you back down, not keep going. Like when you look at like in a combine where they try to touch those measuring sticks at the top, you're not running to get like a parabola. You're just running to jump up and down. And I thought, this is really contrived to get this character to die to get the movie started. I thought, you really have to do all of this? Why are you playing on a hoop that's that close to a window, which disappears when he falls through? The wall disappears. So I felt that was a little lacking.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the goofs that I noticed from that scene was you see jumping towards the basketball backboard with the window there, and then as he's falling off the roof, there's no window, no wall, nothing. But yeah, I mean, I've seen rooftop basketball hoops, like, but I've never played on them. I've seen them, and but I I would.
Got chain link fence behind them that
right
will catch you, not like a
right.
window.
There's like a fence or something right up there. There's just no open. You missed and you fall. Like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah, I thought that. I mean, I don't know. Is that something people do at basketball courts? Is to see how high they can touch on the backboard?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can do that.
All right. I feel like I tried to do that and I wouldn't reach the backboard anyway. But
yeah.
But I don't know. The act of jumping up doesn't seem like you would be running through to the end over the baseline. Like, where are you going?
Yeah, I never went forward. I did like you did. I went up and came back down.
What do I know? Not Michael Jordan.
Yeah, it was so unbelievable that we were talking before we recorded. I thought it was maybe a metaphor for someone had died while he was playing. I thought maybe it was a shooting or something, but yeah, no, that's what happened. He broke through the backboard and fell off, and I guess he was implicated in the crime. Shepard was, so that was a setback. And then the headlines in the paper were, what was it? Fatal flaw. Something like that.
Yeah,
so,
he was a fatal flaw.
Yeah.
That's something talent, fatal flaw, but yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't obviously there's thug life and violence, It was just like the violence against Flip, played by Bernie Mac, was kind of uncalled for. Even Kyle tackling him, beating him up on him after beating him one-on-one, and then Bertie and the crew slashing him. And I mean, it's just something, it's just being mean-spirited in the thug life of just trying to make yourself feel superior to someone else. So that was it was tough to watch, but it's thug life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely tough to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of putting people down to make yourself feel better.
Yeah, so there's tragic ending there because as Shepard rescues he's the hero of the basketball game, and he's got that. They were down by one point. He has the last minute steal and alley oop to Kyle, right? Which was fun. But then the guns ring out.
Yeah.
Motal tries to shoot Kyle. Shepard jumps in the way. I thought that Shepard had died because they're carrying him out like on a stretcher. Luckily for him and family, he survived. And then you see they fast forward. You see Kyle playing for Georgetown against Seton Hall in the conference championship game, and Kyle makes the winning shot, and he quotes Shepard with spread out your fingers for the jump shot and stuff like that, which was kind of cool. Well, I thought it was weird though. The announcing on that Georgetown game was very lame for that game-winning shot.
Yeah,
it was just like, and they win another win by Georgetown. Like, this is the conference championship. He wins a buzzer beater, and they're like, look at the way he got into space. The spacing on that play was just great. I'm like, what?
They wasted Bill Raftery on this.
Yeah, they wasted it. I'm like, come on, that was anticlimactic.
Yeah.
But then it was nice to see that. And then they show Mrs. Watson was there, and then they show Shepard. They're like, oh, all right, he's all right. But again, I'm like thinking, why weren't they at the game either? They're watching in a bar.
That's what I was trying to figure out. Like, why were they not at the game?
Yeah.
There's no way I wouldn't have been at that game.
Because you'd think that's the Big East championship that would have been at Madison Square Garden. It would have been right there.
What was it? I don't know if I get my
maybe in the story it's actually in the Georgetown area.
I think it said as Landover, Maryland.
Oh, right. You're right. It was at US Air Arena, right? So back then it was US Air Arena.
Yeah, that was definitely the Big East tournament, though. Yeah.
Yeah. I would think they'd be hopefully being able to get down, or the family, like the school would make some accommodations for them to a bus down,
or they just drive down, or maybe Shep can't take that drive. He just been shot.
Yeah, I don't know how badly he was.
Yeah, you think they'd make it to it's only the Big East championship.
Yeah.
What's really, really, really funny about that scene though is like that was the Big East tournament championship game, and the movie was made in 1993. In the actual 1993 Big East tournament, Seton Hall won the championship by beating Georgetown in the quarterfinals. Followed by Providence in the semis, and then finally Syracuse in the championship game. But it was flipped.
Interesting.
Is Holloway on that team? That's before him. That was the first time, wasn't it?
No, Holloway was in the early 90s. That could have been.
Yeah. Shaheem was on that team.
Okay.
Whenever I think Seton Hall, I think of that Final Four team, but that was like 88, 89 with Terry when they lost to Michigan. Terry DeHare, Jerry Walker, and those guys. And they lost. I remember Rumeal Robinson from Michigan hit those free throws like at the end. That was a questionable call because I was pulling for Seton Hall. Another thing I didn't really like was Birdie obviously is a head case, and thuggish, but he was snapping at his brother at their mother's gravesite, asking him to join him in his underworld, and I mean, that was kind of disrespectful to their mother.
Yeah, Birdie's a lost cause, man.
Yeah,
he really was.
It's like he was about that life.
Yeah, it's like when people live that life, they're unfortunately end up either dead or in jail. Tragic.
Yeah, it's a cautionary tale.
Yeah, and in this case, Birdie did end up dead. Boog paid his respects to Birdie and took him out in his club.
I was not expecting that. I thought, ooh,
yeah.
Boog got his. Oof.
Yeah.
And that there could have been layers to that situation too, because Boog was constantly disrespected, and even when the way Birdie handled it, he told everyone to not even talk to him. He was like excommunicado. And then what happened at the game, Birdie basically ordered a hit on Kyle at the game. And Bug is Kyle's best friend. I could have easily pushed him over the edge. He figured he'd been in jail before. He has nothing to lose. You know, he's like, I've been there before. I'm not afraid to go back. This guy tried to kill my best friend.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and as we're chatting, it's a shame, how art imitates life. And Tupac was gunned down just a couple years after this film. Age 24, I think he was.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this was his final film that was released during his lifetime.
Yep.
Yep.
That's tough to see that last scene when knowing what we know now, how
Right.
he was killed violently, and seeing him getting shot to death in this film at the very end. That's difficult to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but overall, I enjoyed watching the film. The character development was good, like I said before. Let's talk about the music. I mean, the music was outstanding, wasn't
it? Absolutely.
A double platinum soundtrack. Not many movies can say that.
Yeah, the streets were definitely alive with this soundtrack when it came out. I remember it, like couldn't go anywhere without hearing songs off of the soundtrack playing. It's crazy because Above the Rim takes place in New York. It's clearly Harlem. You see the 125th Street and the Apollo in the background outside of the movie theater. The basketball court by the Harlem River Drive, and you're looking at it like, wow, this is definitely New York. But the soundtrack was Death Row Records produced. It's like, wow. And they came hitting hard with a very good soundtrack.
Yeah.
An opening song by Tupac set the tone.
Yeah.
A few songs by Tupac, The Dog Pound, I'll Be Sure's on there. Played Regulate by Nate Dogg and Warren G at the very end. That was a nice touch.
Yeah. Some Lady of Rage. My favorite song was that SWV Anything remix with the Wu-Tang Clan on it. Oh my God, I love that song. Every time I hear that song, it just takes me back to my youth. And oh man, it's such a fun song. They took because the regular song Anything, it's a slow song, but for the remix, for the soundtrack, they completely flipped it and sped it up and made it an up-tempo dance song, like club worthy, backyard worthy, cookout worthy. It's like
remix.
Wow. Yeah, that was a great remix. They completely flipped it.
We should talk about whether we made today.
Yeah. I mean, I think it could be. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah,
easily.
I think the themes the themes of basketball scholarships and getting out of the hood, and those are ripe for stories.
Yeah,
I think the one hard thing would be to recast Birdie. I think I was trying to think of who's the current day Tupac Shakur. I really can't think of one.
No, there isn't one.
I can't think of a rapper who has this kind of acting chops, and
they'd have
I'm struggling.
An actor.
A different actor. It would have to be, none of the rappers that are actors that I can think of right now have this kind of charisma and this kind of kind of cinematic presence. I mean, LL Cool J is a fun actor when he's doing NCIS and all that kind of stuff, but it's different. Tupac hits different, especially now.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. The themes are still relevant. There's a lot of shadiness that goes on in these AAU leagues, and they're trying to recruit kids. They try to give them a taste of some money illegally and that lifestyle. And a lot of kids are torn with following some shady dealings or staying on the straight and narrow.
Right.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah, it's like a street endorsement deal.
Yeah.
You play for me, I make a little money off you, I put a little money in your pocket. It's a win-win, quote in quotes, win-win situation, but it's highly illegal.
Yeah.
But there's no winning if you get caught.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That really made Tupac's kind of role in this really thought-provoking because he's so nice and he gave you all the stuff, and there are no free lunches. Like there were a lot of strings attached, and
oh yeah,
he was able to hold this over Kyle if he ever said anything that he could get a scholarship pull because of this.
Yeah. Shout out to Kyle for having a mindset to return everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just hand him a duffel bag with everything.
That was smart.
Yeah.
Also, it'd be different these days with, again, cell phones recording everything. This was before cell phones had cameras and stuff. Like, how would you prove? I was thinking, how would they prove if Birdie would have said, "Hey, I gave him money, whatever"? Like, how do you prove it? No, I gave it back to you. It's like his word versus his word, if it ever came down to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Birdie could call the scout from Georgetown or John Thompson back at the time, tell him, and then Kyle could deny it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no paper trail really or evidence.
It doesn't show up as a public transaction on Venmo. Kind of like that.
Got a Venmo from Birdie.
Yeah. Venmo's Birdie Venmo you.
That's funny.
with like a black crow emoji. And a dollar bill stack with the wings. Oh man.
How about that actual bird call that he made at the end of the game?
I'd love to know where that came from. Was that part of the script or improvised?
I mean, that's why they call you Birdie.
Yeah.
I was reading something that came out like for either the 20th or 25th anniversary of Above the Rim, and they were talking to some of the actors that are still with us. And Marlon Wayans did say that he became really friendly with Tupac.
Oh, I think I read the same thing.
Did you read that one?
Tupac was in Antscape.
He was jumping out of the Jeep and stuff.
Yeah, but not having any doors on the Range Rover.
Yes, the doors, right? And then
we'll link this in the show notes. This is
he smoked so much. He was smoking so much weed at the time that Marlon Wayans was getting a contact high, and Tupac was kind of really into that role, and he was kind of demanding and showing up a little bit late. But he said to Leon, "Don't worry, you're my boy. I love Five Heartbeats. That's my movie. We won't have any issues, But there were some times when Tupac was either late to the set or he's not coming out of his trailer or something. They're like, "Get his butt out here! Come on now."
Yeah, he didn't quite understand the implications of his actions.
Yeah,
for the production.
Exactly. Yeah, he was marching to his own beat. It's fun to go back and see some of the how they recounted the filming and whatnot. Let's go around and give our typical ratings. So, Dinah, right? Why don't you start? I know you had some issues. Does that mean you were gonna bring that funky flick back?
Bring that funky flick back?
Or leave it in the vault?
Well, I think Tupac saves this movie from being left in the vault. So I'm bringing that funky flick back.
Boogie, how about you?
Dope soundtrack, basketball. Bring that funky flick back.
Yeah, for the same reasons as you, Boogie. Bring that funky flick back.
Hip Hop Movie Club is produced by your HHMCs, JB, Boogie, and Dino Wright. Theme music by Boogie. Special thanks as always to Susan, Towanda, and Alice. Check us out on TikTok and Instagram at Hip Hop Movie Club. On the next episode of the Hip Hop Movie Club podcast, your HHMCs will review Brown Sugar. It drops in 2 weeks, so subscribe today in your favorite podcast app and you won't miss it. Shout out to your listeners. Thanks for tuning in.
And remember, don't hate, meditate.